Hey everyone, Coops here from the Whole Box and Dice, and you asked for it, so I'm going to do some of my favorite budget standard decks. These will be a great introduction for anyone looking to get into Magic. We'll try and do decks that have a lot of pieces that aren't rotating out too soon, but obviously we don't want to exclude any great cards that are going to make the decks. I threw a poll up on Twitter. If you're not following me on Twitter, please check that out, / the Whole Box and Dice. And looks like the results were pretty overwhelming in favor for this deck first. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Whole Box and Dice presents Green White Cat. So, Cat Tribal. I know there's been a lot of takes on this deck, but I tried to set myself a budget of about $100 for it. And I've actually come up with a pretty competitive deck, and I've had it played on MTGO, and I've played out my LGS, and the deck actually can do some work, and it does have some things going for it, and obviously thematically it's quite enjoyable to play with. So if you've got a boyfriend, girlfriend who loves cats, or brother or sister, and they're feline obsessed, then this would be a great way for them to start Magic. And like I said, not an expensive deck either. But what are we running in our green white cat deck? Well, let's jump into the creatures, and we're starting off with a playset of the Sacred Cat, just for 1 white. It's the 1/1 lifelinker with Embalm of a white again. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Embalm mechanic, you're paying a white mana, so plains, you're exiling the card from the graveyard, so after it's died, and you are then creating a copy of it, which is a token, and it becomes a zombie as well as it being still a cat. So you do lose it out of your graveyard, but you do get some replay ability. Up next is the Adorn Pouncer, and we're running a playset of the Adorn Pouncer as well. It's a 1/1 double strike cat for 2, generic and a white. It has Eternalize, which is a little bit different to Embalm, but a similar concept. So you pay 5 mana, exile it from your graveyard, and you make it a 4/4 copy, whereas the Embalm brings it back as the original stats of the creature. So 4/4 double striker is pretty awesome, and the fact that we get a 1/1 and then a 4/4, I do really like the value we get from Adorn Pouncer, and this is one of the cards that we found from Hour of Devastation, which certainly helped this set become makes this deck become much more of a thing. Moving into the Feral Prowler now. And we're playing a playset of the Feral Prowler. It is a pretty vanilla 2 mana 1/3 cat, but when it dies, it draws a card, and the deck really wants to see cards. We've thrown a couple of cycle lands in there just to help with that card draw, but we definitely want a way that we can draw some cards. And if you have a way to buff the cat, you can be looking at a 2/4 with when it dies, draw a card. So for 2 mana, I feel like that is a pretty good investment. So how do we pull the deck all together? Well, this is one of the few cats that are not actually a cat in the deck, although it will quickly become one. We're running a playset of the Metallic Mimic. This is probably the most expensive card that we're running in the whole deck, and for good reason. When it enters the battlefield, you pick a creature type, so obviously we're going to pick cats. All your cats that come in after that come in with a +1/+1 counter on it. Just as a bit of a rule clarification, there's no opportunity between when the cat enters the battlefield after you've got a Mimic down and then getting the counter. So it's not like the Gearhulk where it comes in as the 4/4, you can zap it before the counters go on it. If you play the Feral Pouncer, for example, it's a 2/4 straight away. So you never get a chance to interact with it as a 1/3. Obviously, Mimic is a huge card. It only costs 2, so it's pretty cheap. And we've got lots of cheap cats in the deck, so you get plenty of value from the Metallic Mimic. 2 copies of the Pride Sovereign here, so the 3 mana, 2 generic and a green cat creature. You get +1/+1 for each other cat you control, and you can pay a white, tap and exert it, and create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens, which obviously in turn buffs its power by at least 2. I was super pumped when I saw this card spoiled, Pride Sovereign. I thought, wow, this Adorn Pouncer, these are going to be great additions to the cat deck. I was actually really disappointed with the Pride Sovereign. It's a little bit too slow, especially in a budget deck where we are trying to maximize the value, and it's certainly not an aggro deck, but we do pack a lot of punch, and we don't want to let our opponents get into top gear. The fact that you can't exert it while it attacks just means that you're doing it every second turn, and it doesn't even have a keyword, and maybe it would be broken if it had a keyword on it as well, but there are definitely other creatures that I wanted to see, which is why, even though I started off with a 4, it ended up just being a 2 of. And what shares the other slot at 3, but this is a generic and double green, is the Prowling Serpapod. So this is the 4/3 cat snake, so it's still a cat, still gets the counter with Mimic, and it can't be countered when you cast it, and creature spells you control can't be countered. So straight away, it gives us some protection plenty of control lists running around. There's the bolus list, there's blue-red, maybe even a mono-blue one kicking about. Great that we can give, just to effectively take all those spells offline. And Prowling Serpod is just a good body anyway. 4-3 with a Mimic down becomes a 5-4 for 3 is very, very nicely statted there. Now, the only other non-cat that we're running in the deck, or I guess the only true non-cat, because Mimic is going to be always naming cats, is the Majestic Myriarch. So it's a Chimera, depending on how you want to pronounce it, for 5, 4 generic, and a green. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control, and at the beginning of each combat, if you control a creature with flying, it gets flying. So the big benefit here is that we already saw that the Adorn Pouncer has double strike. We're playing the Regal Caracal, because obviously it's an amazing cat that gives cats lifelink. And so you can have interactions where you've suddenly picked up a trample with some of the other tricks that we have, vigilance, what is it also got? Lifelink and double strike. And this can be a 10-10, 12-12, even 20-20 if you get enough tokens out. And this can just straight up win us the game. So still doesn't have to be a cat for the Prowling Serpapod to work, so it's still a creature, so it can't be counted out of the hand. And it is nice to just have a game winner, and it's another card from Hour of Devastation. Talking about ways to give it lifelink, we're running 3 copies of the Regal Caracal for 5, 3 generic double white. Other cats you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink, and when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink, so that's how the lifelink gets shared around to the Chimera. Now what's great about this is with the Mimic out, this comes out as a 4-4, so if your opponent doesn't have any energy left over, they can't harness lightning it, just with the 3 energy, and a Braid also only deals 3 damage as well, so it manages to dodge that, which is great. Plus it makes some extra cat tokens, which is solid for our Pride Sovereign as well. Caracal's a pretty big MVP of the deck, and I think 3 is the right amount, because I did want to save 1 slot for the Felidar Sovereign. Trust me, Felidar Guardian would have been so nuts in this deck. It sucks that they banned that card. But Felidar Sovereign is a 6-mana cat beast, 4 generic double white. It's 4/6, has vigilance and lifelink, so great keywords already. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game. This is just a great another little sneaky win con if you get into those super grindy matches, especially like against tokens where you're not getting through their board and they're not getting through your board. Just being able to have that trigger that once you're over 40 life, you can just straight up win. What are we running in the rest of the deck? We've got some enchantments and some artifacts as well before we get to the lands. We're running 3 copies of Always Watching and 4 copies of Cast Out. Always Watching is just huge, and even though it doesn't hit our token cats that we make, gives everything else +1/+1 in vigilance. So you can have a Mimic out, Always Watching out, and Caracal out, and suddenly your cats are +3/+3, which is absolutely huge. Vigilance allows you to swing in with some of the big ones and just gain life and stay up as a blocker. So it's a very, very annoying trick. The deck desperately needs removal, and we hate seeing Chandra, Torture Defiance on the other side of the battlefield. So full play set of Cast Out. You can cycle them if you feel like you're not getting the value from them, but the fact that you can exile target non-land permanent, so it can be an enchantment, it can be an artifact, it can be a planeswalker, it can be a creature. Just amazing that you can take out a land, take out anything but a land that way, and the cycling is nice. In the artifacts, we're running 3 copies of Bronus' Monument. It's a legendary artifact, so you can only have 1 on the board, so do remember that. So if you do have 1 and you play another one, you will have to sacrifice one of them. Green creature spells you cast cost 1 less, so for things like the Serpapod, the Pride Sovereign, Feral Prowler. But the real benefit we're getting this is when you cast a creature spell, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Now note, that's not a green spell, it's any creature spell. The fact that you can give the Myriarch trample, plus buff it, or even just swing in with a big Caracal and give it trample, plus it's got the lifelink, or even the Pride Sovereign, for example, you can get through for a lot of damage. So I wanted to be able to include the Monument. It does make a few of our creatures cheaper as well, which is a nice little additional thing. But the last 2 slots in the deck, and I can promise you, you probably didn't see this coming. This is 2 copies of Stoneforge Masterwork. It's the equipment for 1 with an equip cost of 2. It's from the Oath of the Gatewatch set, so we do lose this one, but it is a neat little trick to have up your sleeve. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. So we obviously don't want to be attaching it to the Myriarch, but you can absolutely have just a massive token go through, as a 15-15, 20-20, and you can give it trample and just get up to all kind of shenanigans. Plus, we've got the monuments in there anyway, and 2 of these, so there's probably not enough artifact destruction to kill them all, unless you've got torrential gearhogs flashing them back. So I do like that we just have something a little bit, a little bit unexpected, just something that our opponent's probably not going to see coming, and you can get into just huge alpha strikes by equipping a Stoneforge Masterwork, playing a 1-cost cat, and giving it trample. So great plan there. Now, in terms of the land base, we're running 23 lands. It's pretty simple. Some of the new dual lands are scattered groves and some fortified villages, just some forests and plains, and then we're running 2 each of the deserts, the cycling deserts. I mentioned we had the feral prowlers in there, obviously because they're cats, but also for card draw. I do want to run some deserts as well, so if we do see these late, we can cycle them to keep drawing cards. If we can, draw into one of our bombs, or like an Always Watching, or a cast out if we're trying to find a solution to a pesky planeswalker. What does the sideboard look like for this deck? Well, we obviously want protection, so we're running a playset of Blossoming Defense. I did originally have Heroic Intervention in the sideboard, but just with Hour of Devastation, you lose indestructibility. Is that a word? Indestructibility? Your creatures lose the ability to have indestructible, so there's no way that you can cast that and get around the Hour of Dev trigger, so ended up taking them out. Running a playset of Declaration in Stone as well. This is great, especially if your opponent has a strategy that has, Winding Constrictors, a card like that you just really want to get rid of. Tireless Trackers, stop them with card draw. There's lots of, great options that you can take out with Deck in Stone. And just as a heads up, you can always Deck in Stone your own creatures. It's not definitely a move I'd recommend for sure, but you can Deck in Stone one of your creatures and get card draw off it that way. So, you might have 2 Pride Sovereigns out, and you just need to, desperately try and find that cast out. There are worse plays than Deck in Stoning your own creature and getting a couple of getting a couple of clues. Just remember, it doesn't work on token creatures, as in you can Deck in Stone a token creature, you just don't get the clue off it. We'll go up to a playset of the Serpopods in the sideboard as well, just to give us that protection against control. 1 copy of Fumigate in case we come up against a very aggressive token strategy, all mono red, and we just want to hit the reset button. 2 copies of Solemnity. I'm still not 100% sure about this card, but I like, first it's a new card from Hour of Devastation. It is a little bit pricey, so if you were looking to save a bit of money, you could definitely drop these from the sideboard. But players can't get counters, so which means they can't get energy, which is pretty vital in terms of shutting down a lot of those decks. And counters can't be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. But do just remember, this works against you as well. So if you were going to be siding in Solemnity, you'd be taking out the Mimics, just because you're effectively just going to try and run over the top of them and hope that your creatures are strong enough, and you're probably playing more the lifelink Felidar Sovereign game. So just remember, it's not your opponent. It's all players can't get counters, which is inclusive of yourself. So do just remember that. Last 2 copies is Approach of the Second Sun. Just an alternate win condition in the sideboard, plus it gives us a bit of life gain as well. I feel like you only need the 2 copies. You can even get away with 1, but if they Void Shatter it or send it to exile, we don't really want to deal with that. But a couple copies of Approach just to give us a little trick up our sleeve when we go to board. So, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, that is Cat Tribal. And on TCG Player and Card Kingdom at the moment, this deck's going to set you back about $100. Hopefully you've got a lot of the pieces for it. We don't lose too much to rotation, and cards like Solemnity, you don't necessarily need to run them. They are a very unique strategy. It's probably more geared to the kind of meta that I come up against in my local game store. So if you're not seeing a lot of counter decks, then, or energy decks, then you can probably drop them out as well. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you've played a deck like this, please let me know. If you play a deck like this, let me know how it goes. Is there something that you would include? Do you find Pride Sovereign, you rate it a lot higher than I think it was? Have you thought about using things like Stoneforge Masterwork? Let me know in the comments. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. Got a whole bunch of other decks coming up in the $100 range. So you saw things like U-White, Blue-White Aetherflux Reservoir, plus we've got the Mono Green God Pharaoh's Gift, and also the Temur Cycling Drake. So plenty of good budget decks coming your way over the next couple of weeks. Thank you again for watching. My name is Coops. This is the Whole Box and Dice. Peace.